Hello everyone, I'm Rob Childs and I am a Rapier fighter out of the United States, bringing you the fourth installment of this ongoing series in the techniques, tips, and psychology of Rapier combat. So the previous videos that I have done generated a lot of discussion, and I really appreciate all the questions that you guys had, and I hope that I was answering those in a way that made sense. But I've also had some people asking if I could give you guys something a little bit more complex. Not a problem, we can certainly do that. So the first thing that popped into my mind was some advice that I give to people when they're asking me what are some core concepts that they need to focus on when they're in the midst of the fight. And the answer is always the same. I always give the three basic tenets of 1, fight from measure, 2, always move your feet when you're attacked, and 3, and this is what I'm going to be talking about in this video, always fight by your sense of touch. Now, what does that mean exactly? Yeah. The amount of time it takes in order to see, process, and respond is actually quite long when you're relying only upon your sense of sight for your information. And let me tell you, I've run into a great many people who do. They rely on their eyes to tell them everything they need to know. But the problem is that your eyes are quite slow, and your eyes can be deceived. This is why magicians can make a living, is because the eyes are not quick. The hands are so much faster, and it's very easy to fool you. Now, the sense of touch, however, not only is it much faster, but it's also much more difficult to fool. So today I'm going to be talking about a drill that you can do in order to work on that sense of touch. Now, before I get to that point, however, the way your sense of touch works, it's a lot like a language. Now, a certain sensation that you feel as a pressure or a sliding or a sound translates to something that your opponent specifically did. Once you learn that language, you no longer need to see your opponent doing it. You just automatically know what they have done. So in order to best illustrate exactly how you use your sense of touch, I'm going to give you a couple of drills. And one of those drills, you won't even need a sword. This is just for the purposes of showing you exactly how much time your sense of touch can actually save you, vice your eyes, and trying to see, process, and respond, that whole sequence that I talked about before. So for this, I'm going to utilize a partner, and I'm going to bring her in right now. Okay, so for this particular drill, I'm just going to show you exactly how much time is being saved by listening to your sense of touch vice your sense of sight. Now, for this first part, she is showing a basic on-guard stance. You can get as close as you need to, but the goal is going to be, I as the person who's on the offense, I'm going to try and touch her on the chest. Now, I'm just going to reach up here and tap her, but the key is, I'm on the opposite side of her hand, so I'm going to have to disengage and strike her on the chest. Now, she, for her part, is going to try and stop me from doing so. Now, right now, our hands are not touching, right? So she is going to do her best to try and keep me from touching. Here we go, ready? So when you see me go, try to stop me from making contact with you. Touch, ready? And again. Touch 2. One more time, ready? 3 times. I was able to get around her hand, extend my arm, and make touch. Now, watch this. Now I'm actually touching her hand. Now I'm going to try it again, and I'm going to do my best to try and get around that hand, make contact with her again. Let's see if she can stop me. Missed. Okay, missed. I'm going to speed it up a little bit. Here we go. Close, but not quite. Thank you. Go ahead, 7%. So what that is showing is that through that sense of touch, you're able to actually save yourself time. You are operating in a shorter span of time. Now, this is a sense that you can apply to the sword fight. This is the same thing where if you were cooking in the kitchen, for example, and you were to touch anything hot at all, your body will flinch away from the source of that heat before the pain signal even reaches your brain. Now, I don't know about you, but I can certainly find a way to make use of that in a sword fight. So next, I'm going to show you the part of the drill that utilizes the sword. This is actual technique that you can use in the midst of the spar in order to give yourself the maximum amount of time to respond, and your opponent the shortest amount of time to do anything with. Okay, so, as explained, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you with swords exactly how you can use your sense of touch in order to better yourself in the fight. Now, when I'm showing this demonstration during a seminar or if I'm teaching a class somewhere, there will usually be a crowd of people of various skill levels and experience. So what I like to do is to grab the person who has the least amount of experience, because nothing sends this message home more than having somebody who has absolutely the least amount of actual sword fighting experience doing something they never knew was already pre-programmed into them. So now I'm going to show you that with my same student as before. So we'll back away from the camera a little bit so they can actually get us on there. So what she's going to do is she's going to lunge for the leg and I'm going to parry. And then she's going to hold it there. Go ahead and lunge for the leg. Okay, so right now I've got her in parry 7. This is what I call parry 7. You might call it something different. But for me, it's this low parry 7. At this instant of time, when we freeze frame everything, her sword is pressing against my sword. She feels my sword pressing back against hers. Through that contact, she's getting volumes of information. So when I do my riposte, she has to figure out through her sense of touch exactly where I'm going, high or low. So here we go. Let's see if she can figure it out. Ready? Okay, no, back to the leg again. Good. All right, so she was able to figure that out, but she's blindfolded. As you can see, she can't see a thing. But how does she know? Her sense of touch is guiding her the whole way, right? Okay, and back up to my leg again. Okay, so she's able to pick up through her sense of touch, through the sound of metal on metal, knowing that my sword has to be where it is. But if I was to do something, again, with her eyes closed, or I should say with her eyes blinded, she is able to see through her sense of touch where I went. So again, lunge the leg, and if I attack her, and back. If I come at her again, she knows exactly where I'm going because of her sense of touch. Thank you much. So as you can tell by that demonstration, you can fight completely by your sense of touch. Now, keep in mind, this is not to say that your eyes don't serve a purpose. They do, because at the start of the fight, it's your eyes that are telling you how far away you are from your opponent, and that's a very critical and crucial piece of information. But once the fight has begun, once the engagement of the blades has begun, it is time to stop paying attention to your sense of sight and listen to your sense of touch. It is your sense of touch that is your fastest sense that you possess. If you listen to that and your opponent is not, it's going to appear like you're moving 1.5 to 2 times faster than your opponent. And you will start hearing those comments like I hear often enough, my gosh, he is just so fast. It has nothing to do with the speed of my hands vice the speed of my opponent's hands. But it has everything to do with the fact that the beginning of an external sensation like pressure against my blade or the sound of metal on metal automatically translates for me into an action much further down the road. So as soon as my opponent starts to do something, I already know where it ends. It's sounding similar to a tell, isn't it? So, and it is indeed a tell, one that is being transmitted this time as a sense of pressure against your sword or a sense of pressure against your arm, vice that of a visual cue being given by your opponent that you pick up with your eyes. Okay, so just because I know, just from experience, I'm going to get some of these questions anyways, and so that way it can better facilitate you doing this exercise. What I'm going to do is talk about a couple of the sensations that you will feel through your blade and what they translate to, as opposed to just letting you figure it out on your own. So I'm going to give you a starting point. And for that, I'm going to bring my assistant back out here. So again, going back to the drill, when she has made her attack and I have successfully made my parry, she on the receiving end is now listening to her sense of touch. Now, if she feels pressure rising up the length of her blade, it can only mean that I stayed low and I'm attacking low, right? Because, if she extends back out here again, because if I had come off of her sword, it can only mean one thing, right? It only means that I went high. If I come off of the weapon, it only means that I'm changing from low to high. And conversely, if I was to be parried here and she's listening to her sense of touch, if I came off of that, it only means that I'm going low. Because if I was withdrawing, here she has me in a parry. If I am withdrawing, she will feel pressure and sound of our blades coming off, right? So listen to your sense of touch. Try this as a very basic starting step to learn how to listen to your own sense of touch over that of your eyes. Thank you. I'm telling you right now that this is not an easy thing. This is, in fact, is very difficult because you are used to using your eyes 7 days a week, right? So if you are listening to your sense of touch, it actually requires you to actively disengage from your sight. Now, I can tell you right now, this is not an easy thing. It sounds very simple, and in practice, once you're actually used to it, it is very simple. It is just another sense that you're paying attention to. But I can tell you from experience and from having taught many, many students about this fighting by sense of touch, it is not an easy thing in order to master. You are constantly, every day that you are awake, listening to your sense of sight. You are paying attention to the stimuluses that are being brought to you from various things around you when you're driving, shopping at the grocery store, whatever the case is. So you're always listening to your sense of sight, and listening to your sense of touch for something that you're so used to listening to your eyes for is not an easy thing. But I am telling you from firsthand experience, if you can master this skill, if you can make this a part of your fighting style, I am telling you, you are going to save volumes of time. If your opponent is not doing the same thing, trust me, my money is on you every time. So I hope this video has at least given you a starting point as to where you can go with learning how to fight by your sense of touch. It is an incredibly valuable tool set to have in any fighter's repertoire. It doesn't matter if you're fighting with rapier, longsword, whatever the case is. Your sense of touch is extraordinarily fast, and that contact of blade on blade is transmitting volumes of information you can make use of. So if you have any questions, as always before, feel free to shoot me a question in the comments, or you can shoot me an instant message on Facebook. Reach out to me. I am more than happy to help wherever I can.